Alright, this is like my third time recording this video because I was going back and forth on using a different microphone, but I think that the way that I talk half whisper into my microphone is too quiet for the other one. Anyway, not the point. Let's try to get into this. What's up, YouTube? Today I'm talking about Something Crawled Out, a Vault comic by Sun M and MadCursed. It's a horror comic, and yeah, I recently got issue 1 and 2, but I've had this comic on my to be read list for a while, so when I got my hands on it, I wanted to go ahead and make a YouTube video talking about it. So I'm going to talk about the plot so far and then my thoughts and feelings on the comic as it stands with how far I've been able to read into it. Alright, let's get started. So Something Crawled Out follows Edith, Eddie, Miller, and her friend Rainier or Rainer, depending on if you play Dragon Age. So Eddie and Rainier are from a small town in the middle of nowhere. So Rainier and Eddie are kind of aimless. They're young adults, but neither really have a lot going on. The small town they're from is beyond boring, and Eddie spends her days kind of meandering aimlessly through young adulthood and her nights working part-time at a gas station. Her best friend Rainier or Rainer, I'm gonna say Rainer, put my foot down. Her best friend Rainer is similar in how aimless he is with his life, although his situation is pretty different from Eddie's own, especially when we start to glance into his personal and family life, with him living alone while Eddie still lives with her dad and sister Charlotte. The comic establishes pretty early on that Charlotte has been missing for a little bit, although it's not necessarily suspicious, as she would pretty regularly take trips with her friends to the city or to otherwise go find something to do in the small town, so it doesn't really rattle her family at first. Her disappearance doesn't really register with Eddie or anyone else until another girl in the community goes missing, and then towards the end of issue 1, Eddie and Rainer have a altercation with two individuals during their shift at the gas station. They see a mysterious man creeping around the gas station before disappearing in a vehicle, and then almost a robbery with a local turns into a mysterious young woman appearing and having what is the first real horror element encounter of the story, where she takes out herself and also the gentleman who was kind of half robbing the gas station. I don't think that YouTube would let me put any of the panels from that situation involving the woman fully online, so just take my word for it that I thought the gore elements of the comic were pretty well done, and I really like the the comic layout and the action of the situation overall really well. The only other defining elements established in volume 1 or issue 1 is that although Eddie sees Rainier as her closest friend, she also sees him as potentially fairly dangerous, even contemplating if he could be an actual devil with like supernatural abilities. Foreshadowed a little bit in the very beginning of the story itself, when Eddie is joking about jumping off the roof and Rainer tells her to do it. It is shown within issue 2 that he does have some supernatural abilities. Issue 2 follows Eddie and Rainer as they travel to the city to try to investigate Charlotte's disappearance. It's pretty evident that from issue 1, at least from Eddie's perspective, the cops within their small town would be utterly useless, so they don't waste a whole lot of time trying to report it to local authorities or do anything of that nature. Eddie investigates her sister's room, looking around, and finds a bracelet similar to one worn by the woman from the gas station. When Eddie and Rainer get to the city, they also come across another woman with another bracelet. Eddie gets Rainer to use his supernatural abilities in order to pry the truth from them, and from there they're able to track down and determine the man who is kidnapping women within the city. Charlotte, for whatever reason, did ultimately cross paths with him. From here, Eddie and Rainer track the guy down and get him to tell them what's going on. It's unclear exactly what his abilities are as of issue 2, but it does seem to be some kind of mind manipulation.
Devil, yes, exactly. So tell me, what is it you desire?
We also get hints of it when his family is established, and we see flashbacks to his childhood, especially in opposition to Eddie's own. I will say one of the most interesting things about the characters, at least to me, is how uneven Rainer seems, even with the insistence of the main character being Eddie's perception of him. If either of them more like a devil on your shoulder seems like Eddie would fit that bill more appropriately. She is the one that instigates and insists on numerous encounters of both volatile style social engagement and then also just flat out violence. This isn't to deter from the narrative that Rainier is a devil or anything. Eddie seems to be more of an instigator while he seems to follow through on the expectations and tone that she sets. He does evil stuff in this too, and I do think it's worth reiterating that Eddie is doing this to find her sister, so some of her actions feel like more sympathetic, if that makes sense. I would say in the 2 issues that I've been able to read, we don't get a good grasp of Rainer's character perspective or what his internalized thoughts are. Anyway, that's more or less where issue 2 leaves us, with them hot on the trail to find Edith's sister, Charlotte. At the moment, I can't really talk further about side characters outside of the tropes that they kind of represent, like Edith's dad or their other friends from back home. And while I do think the characters are pretty dynamic and interesting, I'm really excited to see where the story goes. I don't think I have a good enough grasp to really talk further about different characters or my expectations for their follow through within the story. So I guess the last little bit of this video is me just gushing about the art and how much I really like it. I think it's a really solid comic. It has kind of a sharp, edgy vibe, which I think is really appropriate to the genre, and the colors themselves are vivid and really nice to look at. The palette used within the comic is pretty fluid, but it's got a consistency that I think overall is really, really nice. I like that this one has horror elements but isn't gross, if that makes sense. But yeah, I guess that's my overall thoughts and feelings on the 2 issues that I've been able to read of Something Crawled Out. While this is a comic that's definitely more geared towards adults, is reminiscent to me of the comic Let Me Out, which I covered a few months ago around Halloween on my channel. Similar vibe in that, yeah, I think tonally it just reminds me of it. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just jumping.
I've connected the 2 dots.
You didn't connect shit, but
I've connected them.
I'm not really sure when this comic has another issue coming out, or if it does. I think it does. I hope it does. I guess that's really all I have to say. This video is probably pretty short. It's been pretty chaotic to try to get anything done for my little hobby that is YouTube, but yeah. And if I sound sick, I've been really sick lately, so hopefully I sound fine now. I feel fine now, but yeah, I felt like I was like totally dying in bed the other day. So anyway, have you read Something Crawled Out? If not, is it on your to be read list? Let me know. I'm excited. I feel like I want to find more Vault comics. I feel like I've talked about a couple of Vault comics. I'm not really sure though. Have you read Something Crawls Out? If not, I hope you will. If you have, let me know what you think. And I have other videos that I want to make, but first I'm gonna go watch Nosferatu. But yeah, have a good night, YouTube. Bye.